Hey guys, and welcome to the Igloo, and today we're going to be talking about a certain build that I've been kind of thinking about, especially when it comes to this new Fireproof change. So, the Fireproof change is that they actually take 45% less damage from explosions and flame attacks. They wanted to add this kind of property to it because of all the two-shot explosives. Now, I've been seeing a lot of people getting really killed multiple times over and over again because of somebody one-shotting them with a two-shot explosive weapon. So, first part, you're going to need to have a Assassin's Sentinel gear that you can have, or Assassin's Cavalier gear. Now, both of these can actually work in some different way, but there is a cap with most of it. Most of the time, you're going to need at least 3 pieces of Assassin's Sentinel and maybe 2 pieces of another type so that you have 99% absorption. And that's pretty much the best that you can have. If you go over it, that's a little bit different, but there's also a hard cap once you get to that certain point, especially with either Sentinel or Cavalier. Some people have been using a mixture between Assassin's Sentinel and Cavalier, but I wasn't fortunate enough to get those pieces in order for me to switch it between back and forth. But that's a whole nother thing. But what I've been working on is to have this build. So this build, besides the tank killer one, which I just kind of threw in there so that I can just put lockpick 1, 2, and 3 in there, is very specific in this kind of instance. Because Fireproof has a actual damage resistance of 45 to explosions, and then you have Dodgy, which is 30%, okay, that equals out to 75%, okay? That's a good amount of damage absorption on top of everything else. So 75%, and then let's say you're versing somebody with a 100% Demo Expert 5, okay? That's going to be a very tanky amount of damage that you're going to be taking for a few shots. Maybe 2 to 3 shots that you have, depending on how your agility is worked out with Dodgy 3. And if you have maxed out agility or something else like that. This is just so that it completes the retrospect. Now, again, I went with strength because the shotgun is really good against PvP situations. And personally, I like to prefer the shotgun in a PvP situation over other weapon types right now because of how the balancing is and everything else is like that. The few other things that I've added with this is Ironclad 3, which again, damage and energy resistance, and then on top of it, Adaptanium Skeleton, which is pretty much you don't take limb damage. One of the most important things when it comes to this type of build especially is that you have to actually worry about a few different things. Limb damage staggers you. Any type of staggering gets you to have the ability, when versing a 2-shot explosive, to be instantly dead. Even when you're in Assassin's Sentinel armor. There's a few things that help you, like I specified in my Assassin's Sentinel video, that help you in a PvP situation against a 2-shot explosive variant person. Again, high-tier in-game weapons versus high-tier in-game armor. Again, you're going to be dealing with the difference between the two, and this is kind of why you really need to get into it. Now, the absorption when it comes to other things, especially when doing queen killing and other things, especially while you're not in power armor, is very prevalent. Again, you can swap out your strength to be also heavy gunner. You can do shotgun or melee. Again, I like strength because it has a lot of diversity over just having rifles, which is in perception, as well as that extra carry weight. This is my personal opinion, and that's what helps for most of my builds when I actually put them out there. Now, the main majority of my testing was with Dodgy 2, because I'm not going to have Dodgy 3, especially with everything else. And it gets a little funky, but I only had enough points to do Dodgy 2 so that I can swap it out a little bit. And then I did Fireproof 2 initially first, and then Fireproof 3 later on. Fireproof 3, with this kind of stuff, makes a huge difference, especially when it comes to PvP situations. Huge difference. Because now that Fireproof is actually enacted, you can actually take more damage from explosions. And this actually directly cultivates to actually being able to survive longer in a PvP situation instead of you being one-shotted from some random dude that's going to be claiming your bounty or whatever when you're doing a PvP situation. Again, this is a PvP armor set. I wanted to get this to be clarified because of the new Fireproof's ability. Because of Fireproof and being able to absorb these types of damages, it actually makes it very paramount. Now, I don't know if the Scorch Queen, like, Sonic bat call is actually, like, considered a explosive or not, which, I mean, it could be, but I don't. Especially when it comes to absorption. This is kind of a new territory when it comes to absorption, especially with the Fireproof card itself. So, when it comes to other things, of course you're going to have Starch Genes and Class Freak, so you can keep your stuff. But I also have Serendipity. Serendipity kind of also affects for your actual damage in PvP. So if you fall below 30% health, like, you have a chance to avoid the damage. If you have a level 3 card, that's 45%. So that gives you a chance to actually live a little bit longer. Now, we're talking about seconds here in a engagement environment, because when you are using your AP, you can either use your AP to actually VAT somebody and just continually do that, or you can use your AP as an absorption technique so that you can overall override their VATs. Because VATS doesn't really work in a group PvP situation, because if you're going to try and take out... It's the same problem for what happened in Conan Exiles, where they have this whole targeting thing, and in a group environment, you can target the wrong person that you are trying to engage. So it's kind of the same situation from Conan Exiles with the VAT system that is in Fallout 76. And this is kind of why I'm trying to, like, compile this together, where in a PvP environment, agility and absorption matter more in a PvP situation versus, like, a VAT system where you have special abilities. Don't get me wrong, VATS is really good. In a 1v1 situation, VATS would win. But if you're in a group situation, and a solo, or a duo, or a trio, or just a squad versus squad is happening, this is going to be a big problem, especially in group dynamic PvP, especially for what they're trying to cultivate and fix up and do whatever with this update that happened that I covered in my last video. But again, it wasn't really well received, and I did some things that were wrong, especially my tonality, so that's why I was just like, okay, we're going to try and fix this up. We're going to actually do a proper build situation in this game, Fallout 76. So, once we get all that kind of perk set, and we know that we want to have a explosive shotgun, whether it's a quad, double barrel shotgun that's explosive, or you would like to have a 2-shot explosive combat rifle. Those both fire extremely fast, and with the shotgun perk that has 30% faster reload speed, it actually does a good amount of actual build status. Now, going back into the actual card and the testing that I've done myself. Again, full assassins that I have, full assassin sentinels. And I was just telling one of my trader friends to actually just shoot me for what he's got. He had like a 2-shot, I mean, he had a quad explosive variant. And the cards that I had on were Fireproof 2, and then later on Fireproof 3, and I only had Dodgy 2. I don't have this full build setup, but this will give you a main perspective in order for you to do it, while I'm working on my ult character that does pure PvP kind of environment. Now, again, in my other video that I had, I did not have Flamer in there because it was just a useless card. It was something that you would just throw away, or something that you would do for, like, maybe a TF2 run or something like that. But in this situation, and for what you've been seeing throughout the video, is that it actually works really well. Even with not having a pure build with this kind of retrospect, this actually does wonders. Now, I will have to say that Adamantium Skeleton can play a big factor, because a lot of times that I had these kind of problems, I staggered. I had a stagger chance. I was having a chance to have this stagger happen to me. And it's just because I don't have the perk card that was equipped for it, so that I can actually avoid that kind of limb damage, because the main thing that was happening was that I was getting limb damage, but it was causing me to stagger. So this is why maybe Adamantium Skeleton can be to your benefit when it comes to this. But again, it's a very good card, especially versus two-shot explosive weapons because of how overpowered they are, especially for automatic rifle types, automatic heavy types. And then you have all the shotgun variants that you need to focus on when it comes to a PvP situation. It is very important that you have to be able to deal with the high end, mid tier, and low end, especially in this kind of like, I am going to be maximum absorption, but also as much damage as I can possibly do in this type of build. It is very well rounded, very well bust on top of everything else, and it makes a whole world of difference when you're going back and forth in a PvP situation. Completely important. Again, this is to light with the new Fireproof like update with the card. I wanted to make sure that I was able to properly cover this, especially because I have the gear and I'm able to absorb it, and I would like to be able to show you guys first, especially with my opinions, how everything else is, and what I have out there. Again, I apologize for my tonality from my last video because I wasn't trying to hit that mark. I was trying to be more like a glass half full kind of person, especially in this, but it was just a really long patch notes. Like, I think it's probably the longest patch notes that I've ever seen with any Bethesda game, period, in the longest time that I've pretty much been playing Bethesda games. So it's been really crazy seeing on how much this game is being improved because they've been fixing these bugs and exploits and everything else like that. And I do have to give them credit for where credit is due, because they're actually fixing a good amount of shit. But I mean, the game should have been came out in the state that it is in now after this update, rather than before, whether it was just a mess. But either way, that's my take. That's pretty much how I view it, and honestly, leave a like, leave a comment down below if you actually enjoyed this kind of like in-depth build analysis, kind of like my personal opinion for what I would see on out there, especially for it. And if you want to actually see like this absorbing card kind of setup that I've been actually working on, it'll be down below in the link, so you can actually have that kind of stuff. And have a good one, guys. See ya.